Thank you, Dr. Johnson. What an honor to be here, and thank you. This is a real exciting opportunity for me as well to tell my story. When I first met Dr. Enright, she said, well, why did you leave Mayo Clinic? Like, we want to know about this story. And I said, okay, let me put this down. At first she said, maybe you can talk for 20 minutes. As I started looking through this, I'm like, oh my gosh, there is so much I want to say. So here we go. We're going to go on this. So leaving corporate medicine, the lessons I've learned along the way, I have painful on there, but you could substitute brutal, essential, valuable, all of the above, and we're going to go through those. So no relevant disclosures except for I own a medical practice. So I'm going to start with a bold statement, and that is my belief. Corporate medicine is killing healthcare professionals and patients. And throughout this talk, when I say doctors, I mean healthcare professionals. It's just easier to say doctors sometimes. But I'm going to break this down into three areas. One, I'm going to talk about how my definition of high quality healthcare changed from what I thought was my dream practice at Mayo Clinic to ultimately leading me to be disillusioned with that practice and leaving. Number two, how when I did leave, my misperceptions, ignorance, and frankly arrogance, this is a very humbling aspect, about business cost me dearly. And number three, the mindsets that have held me back and still hold me back today. I broke this down into societal expectations and obsolete biological wiring. So what is high quality healthcare? Well, if you had asked me early in my career why I wanted to be a doctor, I'd say I want to save lives. And nowhere was that more immediate than when my first year as a fellow in the cath lab. Like, you know, people came in with broke arteries and we fixed them within an hour. And I know most of us in healthcare, we don't get that immediate gratification very much. It was exhilarating, and I was convinced that I was, one, saving lives, two, that my future was I was going to put stents in as many people as I could, like all good cardiologists. But along the way, I came across this paper that was really changed my foundational sense of medicine, and it was appropriately called, if you're a doctor want to know this, actual causes of death. And they talked about tobacco and diet and being sedentary and excess alcohol being 80% of premature deaths. Two things shocked me about this. One, in my 11 years of training, medical school, residency, fellowship, the amount of time I spent on those four things, I'm going to estimate was about 8 hours. And that might be an overestimate. The other thing is, and I know this sounds funny, but I was shocked, lack of stents was not on this list. But you know, there's now mountains of data that shows this same thing, that we need more than just expert medical care if we want the best outcomes for our patients. Here's just another example of this. This is a paper from a Harvard group. And you know, when I first read this, 12 to 14 years, like really? You know, we know even treating out of control blood pressure maybe adds 2 or 3 years to life on average. 12 to 14 years, and these things like, you know, not smoking, normal weight, eating reasonably well, being physically active. But this wasn't a joke paper. This was 34 years of follow-up, 42,000 deaths. And they show that death, heart disease, cancer decreased 60 to 80%. Men added 12 years of life and women added 14 years of life. And it's not just about prevention, treatment as well. Atrial fibrillation is an epidemic. Cardiologists are overrun with AFib these days. But this group, very thoughtful and prescient in Australia about 10 years ago, said, okay, well, what if we take AFib, which we don't treat very well, and we say, okay, this group, we're getting medications and ablations and the usual eat less, move more advice, but this other group, we're going to help them lose weight. We're going to help them get more fit, treat their blood pressure, their sleep apnea, talk to them about alcohol, tobacco, smoking cessation. What's going to happen over 4 years? And the group that got medical treatment, only 66% had recurrent AFib. The people that lost 10% of their body weight and got more fit, the other aspects, 6% had recurrent AFib. We don't have options in cardiology that have 11 times outcome benefits. So it became clear to me that high quality healthcare was more than just expert medical care. We had to also address the right habits. Problem was, as a doctor, I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know anything about nutrition, physical activity, sleep, stress. But I was going to change the world. first lesson, valuable lesson I learned, as much of healthcare isn't about saving lives, it's about providing Band-Aids. So I knew I didn't want to be a doctor who just handed out medications. So when I finished my fellowship, I stayed on staff at Mayo Clinic and I founded the Heart Health and Performance Program. This is the primary prevention program at Mayo Clinic. And I wanted to incorporate those things that we know is so important. Expert medical care, but everybody spent an hour with a dietitian. Everybody spent an hour and a half with an exercise physiologist. People loved the program. The feedback was phenomenal, but it was very disappointing to me that over time, as I saw people back, people weren't getting healthier. We weren't helping them. And frankly, I was blaming them. I was saying, look, I've told them what to do. I told them they need to eat better and lose weight and get more active, and they're just not doing it. It's their fault, not mine. Again, humbleness. But you know, over time I realized that's because that's not how people change, right? I think that's just stated so elegantly by Dean Ornish when he says, people don't resist change, they resist being changed. I will tell you, talk to people traditionally trained physicians, and they'll say people don't change. They don't change. No, it's that we're using the wrong tools. We're telling them what to do. We're not partnering with them. So that was a lesson for me to learn, but then this is the guy who really helped me put it all together. This is, of course, not the real picture of the patient, but this was a gentleman, wildly successful gentleman. He's a CEO of an international company, successful in every aspect of his life except for his health is a disaster. He's diabetic, hypertensive, drinks too much, eats out all the time, never exercises, the whole thing. But I would see him every 3 months for 18 months, and every visit felt like Groundhog Day. I would say, okay, well, if you do these things, then I wouldn't have to write more medications, but here you go. And I'd add more medicines, and I'd adjust his medications. And it was a frustrating experience for me. But at 18 months, he said something to me that completely changed my perspective of my role as a cardiologist. And what he said was, I wish I could see you every 2 weeks. And at first that caught me off guard because I'm like, wow, I thought our visits were a waste of time. Why would you want to see me every 2 weeks? And then he explained, and he says, when I see you, I'm on it. I know how important this is. I'm focused, and for a week or two, I do really well. But then life gets busy. I get unfocused, and I'm off track, and next thing I know, it's 3 months later, and I'm embarrassed, but I know I have to come in and face the music once again. He said, there's got to be a program that can keep me on track. This is the Mayo Clinic, for God's sake. And I scoffed. I'm like, yeah, Mayo doesn't have anything like this. But, there's lots of programs, right? There's Ginny Craig and Weight Watchers. I mean, those are out of business now, right? Ozempic. But, join a gym, get a personal trainer. And he said, yeah, I've tried those. Those don't work. They're not my doctor. And it was then that I realized, that's the piece that I've been missing, is that I thought I was in the doctor business. Doctor business is episodic visits when there's a problem. What I needed to be was in the relationship business, an ongoing connection for my patients. So I think I've solved the world problem with this. And I realized that I couldn't be the health coach and the dietitian and the exercise physiologist. First I thought that was my role, but what I came to the conclusion was, no, it's a team base. When we're all working collaboratively together, everybody's bringing their expertise. And in that using that science of behavior change, then magical things can happen. We can really change lives. So I feel like I've found the Holy Grail, right? I'm going to tell Mayo Clinic, look what we can do. I'm just so excited about this. I'm going to save healthcare. All I have to do is the right thing. And I still remember to this day that I sat down with my chair, and I'm so excited to tell him, look what we can do. All of these things we have great evidence for, and we can prevent bypass surgery and stents and heart failure and AFib. And I end, all bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and I'm expecting him to say, oh my God, this is the most brilliant thing that I've ever heard. I really was. I just couldn't wait to hear his response. And he sat there for about 15 seconds, and then he said, isn't that how we make money? So healthcare should be easy, right? On this side, in this room, we have healthcare professionals who want to provide high quality care. On this side, we have patients who want to receive high quality care. The centers of line, everybody has the same priority, but what's the problem? The problem is what's in the middle. Corporations, private equity, insurance providers, pharma, medical device companies, EHRs, malpractice, what's their top priority? It's not high quality care. So valuable lesson number 4, doing the right thing is not a business plan. So it was clear to me that it was time for change. I'll admit it still took me many years to actually leave, but I was starting to see, okay, if I'm true to my word, if I'm true to my, who I am as a person, my intentions as a doctor, I can't do this here. And I'm grateful. I hope this doesn't come across as an indictment of Mayo Clinic, because I'm so grateful for my time there. I'm so grateful that they're there. If I'm sick, that's probably where I'm going. They're great at that, but the things that I'm talking about, that's not what they're interested in. So Business 101, and I just summarize this as get humble or be humbled. So now I'm leaving. I'm going to create my own business, Save Healthcare 2.0, and I have built it and they will come. I have it all figured out. And so I created a website that would guide people on healthy lifestyle choices, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be so good. Cardiologists, look at all this evidence that we have, and so I, some reason, thought it was a really good idea to hire a developer that I paid by the hour to build this website. What was supposed to take 3 months actually took 3 years, 5 or 6 times more than what we thought. But I also, being the business guru that I was, spent 99% of my time on the product. Like I was like, oh, we got to tweak this, and we got to tweak that, and we got to tweak this. No time on marketing, sell. Oh, what do I need to do that for? And open the website, and that's what the result was, crickets. And I went into this with some background, and maybe some of you have the same thing, our science. I remember my chemistry professor saying at one time, business is for those who can't do science. Another thing, the chemistry building was closed down, for electricity was out, we had to hold class in the business school, and the professor starts a lecture and he says, I feel like my IQ dropped 50 points walking in the door. Joke's on me though, joke's on us. Now in retrospect, I realize the guy selling life insurance is making a lot more than the chemistry professors were. But I thought I was one of the smart kids, and I think that's not an uncommon thing that among us healthcare professionals, we're really smart. We had to be really smart to get into the schools, to get the education, to get the degrees. And we then think that makes us smart at other areas that we may not be smart in. So valuable lesson number 5, I'd say Business 101, our passion is our product, our service. We can get so tied up in that we forget the other aspects of business. And I will say, when you're first starting out, it should be marketing and sales. Like that should be 80-90% of what you're doing. So now I've done a complete 180. One, I don't want to know anything about business because I don't need it because I'm so smart. Now I'm like, I'm the biggest idiot in the world. I need a business partner. And I then had some lessons to learn. The famous saying, a fool and his money are soon someone's business partner. I had this conversation with your idea and my nothing, we could be rich, 4 times. 4 times I had business partners that I'm like, hey, and I was so excited because they were so excited about what I'm doing. Did it occur to me that they'd never built a business before? Did it occur to me that they had time to do stuff because they weren't doing a lot of other things in life? Did it occur to me that they didn't have the passion I have for this? No, it didn't. And it took multiple painful lessons to finally come to that. But I guess I would say valuable lesson number 6, some of you get blessed with partners. You have spouses, you have people that you love, you trust, or somebody who really shares your passion. But if not, I'd just say instead of giving up equity in your business, consider paying for it. So the next thing I want to talk about is business related as well. And this is another common thing I've seen, at least for me, and I think it's common in our, among healthcare professionals, is we can help so many people. Like, there's so many problems we can solve. And you can see from my little modest website here, I'm going to help you lose weight, improve your cholesterol, stay healthy, lower all of these things that I can solve. But, you saw the result of that. Marketing and sales was part of that, but a lot of it was I was trying to sell to everybody. So, when you're all things to all people, you're nothing to nobody. Find your niche. Here's what finally has worked for me. Number one, sell to anyone with a credit card and a pulse. The business gurus will say only one of those is actually required. Number two, get customers, generate revenue, discover who are the people you love to serve and who pay you well, and then you've discovered your niche. So just a little background of my niche history, everything to everyone, saw how that went. Then I was like, oh, weight loss. Everybody's looking for weight loss, right? Well, turns out there's a lot of competition in that. And most people aren't really looking to do the right things to lose weight. They're looking for something that's a lot simpler. AFib, we saw the research data earlier, right? Who wouldn't want to lose weight and get fit and avoid an ablation? Turns out ablations are a lot easier, a lot more straightforward. 2 years ago, I realized that I could use remote care codes, remote patient monitoring, chronic care management to deliver the lifestyle aspect of my practice and get insurance and Medicare to pay for it. So I'm like, okay, well that's it. Like so I opened my practice a year and a half ago, and when I see the right people, it's great. Like seeing people that say, I've been waiting for this my whole life, and the results that we've had in a year and a half, has just been transformative. It's been the most exciting thing. But most people don't go to a cardiologist looking for that. They're looking for, assess their palpitations or their chest pain. And then when you start talking about an ongoing relationship, they're like, well, I wasn't expecting that. I don't know that I'm looking for that. So then we added primary care about 4 months ago, and that's gone way better from an engagement standpoint. People want that ongoing connection. Here's the issue for anybody who takes insurance, this is that you pay to deliver the service today, and then you get paid 2 or 3 months later, if you get paid at all. Cash flow, man, if you have that kind of cash flow, very challenging to grow. And so, I've still been in that, we're finding my niche, although I think I've found it. This is what I want to do. And I go back to that statement, when you identify the people you love to serve and who pay you well. The patient about 2 months ago, I'm asking him, why are you here? What can I do? What can I solve for you? And he said, I can't afford to leave healthy years on the table. And I realized that's the people I love to serve. That's the people that are also willing to invest in their health as well. And so, I've been asked to be a longevity doctor most of my career because in a sense, that's what I've always done. But I was reticent. I didn't want to do that because longevity is just like, what's the definition of this, right? Is it supplements? Is it stem cells? Is it, freezing your head after you're dead? Like, all of those options. But what I realized is that when I had the right framework, it all started to make sense to me. And that is, 3 questions that I can answer for people is, where do you need to go? What is the proven strategy to get there? How will you do it? And in my practice, where do you need to go? Longevity is my definition: strong body, healthy brain, avoid the preventable causes of disease and death, which we've already talked about. 80, 90% of heart disease, half of cancer, stroke, dementia, like we have to pay attention to those things. What's the proven strategy to get there? The right habits. Optimize your numbers, blood pressure, cholesterol, blood sugar, insulin, of course, but also body composition, body fat, muscle mass, visceral fat, and fitness. And then get great medical care, but medical care not just when you're sick, something that is proactive, actively looking for those opportunities to avoid disease in the future because there's so much opportunity there. And then the part that a lot of people miss is the how do you do it? You may have all heard this, right? Well, I know what to do. I hear that the patient comes in, they're 50 pounds overweight, and I say, oh, we can help you with this, we'll talk about it. I know what to do. How's that working out for you, right? But in fairness, that's a common thing for us from human beings. We mistake knowing what to do with how to do it. That's tactics, that's systems. And how do you do that? Clear objectives, break it down, measure the results, get feedback, adjust accordingly. And then if you want to go faster and you want to get the highest likelihood of results, get a team to support, encourage you, and give you accountability. So that's my practice now. Valuable lesson number 7, the riches are in the niches. And so the last section I want to talk about is mindsets. Mindsets that have held me back, mindsets that still hold me back. I break this down: societal expectations, biological wiring. So let's start with the American dream. This is a picture of me with my grandfather. I don't know, maybe I'm 13, maybe something like that. And I show this picture not to show off my fashion sense from the 1970s. Short shorts and tube socks pulled up to my knees. But two things that were deeply ingrained in me at that time. Number one, my dream was to be a Mayo Clinic cardiologist. I have no idea why. My family was uneducated, poor. I didn't know any doctors except for the one I went to see. But for some reason, that was in my head. That was a goal. And probably because I wanted to make the man standing next to me proud, my grandfather. He was incredibly influential in my life. I wouldn't be here without him. But he drilled into me that American dream. Get a job, get an education, work hard, save your money, buy a house, send your kids to college. And I bought that. Like, it made sense. And it made sense for him because he grew up in the Depression when, the goals when he was early in his life was just to eat. And through hard work, he was able to provide security for his family. But I couldn't help but notice over time that my entire family worked really hard and they were all really poor. Like, that was something that I just couldn't deny. And this kind of summarizes that. In American mythology, people are rich because of hard work, yet nobody can explain why those who do all the actual labor have no money. I'd say actually we can explain what this is, why this is. The tax laws, the wealth accumulation laws are set up to reward business owners and punish employees. I didn't know this. I did not know this. And I'm not an expert in this, a lot of details, people far more advanced than me, but I will say this book, if you're not aware of this, read this book. It will change your idea about being an employee and being an owner of a business and an investor. So today, 77% of physicians are employed. 50 to 70% of physicians have signs of burnout, depending on what source you look at. 50% of physicians would not choose medicine again. I'll tell you from talking to my colleagues, I think these numbers are underestimating that impact. Cause and effect, employed, corporations, burnout, I don't know, I'll let you decide. What I know is that I will never be an employee again. So that leads me to an uncomfortable topic, money. Healthcare professionals are uncomfortable often talking about money. We don't want to be that person that's seen as money grubbing, or they're only in it for being rich, which is kind of comical because I don't know about you, but I don't know healthcare professionals who are rich, right? Like that's not, if somebody came to me and said, hey, I'm thinking about being a doctor because I want to be rich, I'd say, man, there's a lot easier ways to get rich than that. But it's part of our culture, of maybe societal expectations. And I put this back up, this website that I built and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on and all these things to just point out all those amazing things that I'm going to do for them. And what did I charge? $16.95 a month. Yeah. How likely do you think it is that I was going to accomplish anything of those things on there for $16 a month? But here's the funny part. Nobody came, right? There was nothing. One comment in the first month, and it was a woman who said, "You're a doctor, this should be free." So many of us have that fear of money. We don't want to be, we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to be seen as somebody who's doing this for the money, but I will tell you that that sets us up for failure if we're looking to grow a business. Charging too little, we do that because we have a big heart. I want to help as many people as I can. I want to make it affordable. I want to be accessible. I used to say, I don't jump out of bed every morning to help the already blessed and affluent. And I don't. But I had to acknowledge that charging too little led to these things. My services and me were undervalued. It increases the likelihood of business failure or burnout. Those are uncomfortable conversations to have with patients or people that want to pay you, to say, hey, this is what I'm worth and this is what I charge. You know what else is uncomfortable? Telling your family that you're broke. Telling your landlord you can't pay the rent. Telling your employees you can't pay their salaries. And actually the thing that I had to overcome is that I was actually doing my patients a disservice by charging them too little. Because then they're paying $16 a month. How committed are they? How likely are they that they think they're going to get results? The reality is they're just not. And so learning to ask, again, I'm not in it for the money. That's none of us are in here for the money. But the lesson learned is no money, no mission. But any of you who have gone from charging nothing to charging something will recognize this. $100 customer. Can you come early? I have a little extra I need you to do as well. Can you stay longer? This didn't work out as well as I expected. I need to talk about the bill. Can you call me please right away? $10,000 customer. Send invoice. Thanks. So no money, no mission. And so the last mindset, and this has been the most painful for me. This is the one that it held me back, that still holds me back today. And it's an addiction. I'm addicted to comfort. I love comfort. And this potted plant was me at Mayo Clinic. I was so comfortable. I showed up every day and they told me who to see and where to go and what to do. Did I have autonomy? No, I didn't have any autonomy. Did most of my colleagues just sit around and talk about, wow, I just can't wait to retire? Yes. The ones who did retire, were they satisfied with their career? No, they left after dedicating their decades to the cause, and then they got an email saying, we'd like to thank you for your service while we announce the person who's going to come in and turn the will after you. It's a very unsatisfying thing, but man, it is so comfortable, and breaking that comfort has been the hardest thing for me. But I know, and everybody knows this, when you get out, everything that I've done in my life that's been worthwhile was uncomfortable. I can say that definitively. And so I think about this all the time. This is a business axiom, but I think it applies to my personal life, is if you're comfortable, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're dying. And if you're really interested, this book is really a great, Comfort Crisis. I wish I would have read it 40 years ago. So, newsflash for everybody, the world's pretty unhealthy these days. We have epidemics, diabetes, obesity, addiction, deaths of despair. Heart disease, which is mostly a preventable disease, is up 50% in recent decades. Dementia up almost 90%. Stroke, 70%. Cancer, 25%. Mostly preventable diseases. Our most recent evolution of our health has been terrifying. 6 in 10 adults now have a chronic disease. 4 in 10 have 2 or more. And if we look at the younger generations, there's not a lot of hope on the horizon. This is a study, 78% of adolescents have at least one cardiometabolic risk factor. This is data that was accumulated in 2016. It's not better. Here's a study looking at young adults and obesity, 18 to 25 years of age. 1976, 6%. 2018, 32.7%. That's 500% increase in obesity. So is this whole health issues, this problem, is it a mountain or a molehill? in my opinion, this is Mount Everest. And how are we going to stop this? What is going to be the solution to this? I think it has to be us in partnership with our patients, because we're the ones that have the incentive, the alignment with our patients. We want to deliver high quality care. Our patients want to get high quality care. Why is it not going to be corporations that solve this problem? Well, I can give you 4.5 trillion reasons why. That's how much was spent on healthcare last year. There's a lot of money in taking care of sick people. And so I think the solution has to come from us. And it's scary and it's uncomfortable and it's challenging to do that. But if any of you are where I was in the past and you come to me and say, I feel stuck, I don't know what to do, I'm not delivering the care that I want to deliver, I'm trying to figure this out, what's your advice for me? I'm going to tell you, make the leap. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.